Hello everyone, back tuning in today's second video, doing November month-end forecast for today's second video. So we're going to have a look at the CFSV2 and the Beijing Climate Centre to see what those two long-range models are showing for November. We'll have a review on October's forecast, see how we did with that, and at the end of the video there'll be a sneak peek for December, the last month of the year, of course. So this is the second video today. The first video up was just a quick look at bonfire night. So got any fireworks or bonfires planned for either this evening or tomorrow evening, then have a look at that, see what weather is going to be doing. Later on this afternoon we'll have a regular week's 10-day video update with all of the usual features, and tonight we've got the second Christmas update coming up for you. Christmas update started Gaz, one of is on Friday. The second one of those will be on the way tonight. So let's deal with October first of all. So the October forecast from GasWeather was for average to slightly below average temperatures for the north. For Scotland, we thought probably cooler than average month. Elsewhere, maybe near normal sort of temperatures. And in terms of precipitation, we said a rather wet month. We was forecasting above average rainfall. The climate averages page has been updated at the UK Met Office. So this is how the temperature for the United Kingdom came out in October 2019, set against the 81 to 2010 temperature average. We can see it's quite a cool month actually for many parts of the country, maybe a little bit cooler than we anticipated in the forecast. Scotland, yes, below average temperatures there generally, but also Northern Ireland, much of Northern England, many parts of North Wales and down into the Midlands with below average temperatures during October. Further south of that, temperatures were nearer normal for South Wales, southwest and southern England, as well as East Anglia and southeast England, also western Scotland, near normal temperatures there. But it was a rather cool month. I think we can see that the majority of the country had slightly below average temperatures. So perhaps a little bit cooler than we anticipated in the forecast, but not a big deviation, only around half a degree to 1 degree below average on the scale, but certainly our coolest month to average of 2019 so far. And I think the first below average month in terms of the temperature that we've had, probably set against 81 to 2010 since May, but set against 61 to 1990, probably the coolest month since March 2018. And that's how rainfall looks. So a real north-south split for rainfall. A little bit surprised about this, but we see that Scotland, Northern Ireland, and the far north of England actually had average to slightly drier than average rainfall anomalies, precipitation anomalies during October, whereas the rest of England and Wales was wet, particularly so for these eastern parts of England, where it was an exceptionally wet month, through some parts of Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, down into the north and the east Midlands. Very, very wet there. Some places having up to 200% of their average rainfall. Exceptionally wet some parts of eastern England. Generally, England and Wales had a wet month. Scotland and Northern Ireland, though, were somewhat drier. I think this tells us we had quite an unusual pattern during October with the jet stream on a bit of a southerly track, taking those areas of low pressure generally a little bit further southwards than their normal track. I think overall the forecast panned out quite well. I'm not displeased with the forecast. So I think it was an unsettled month as we anticipated. It was a rather cool month as we anticipated, probably a little bit cooler than we expected. And certainly for England and Wales, it was a very wet month as well. So I think overall the forecast wasn't too bad. Right, so this is how November is looking. So this would be 700 millibar height anomaly from the CFSV2 for November. And it looks like another very unsettled month on the way. If this is right, deep area of below average heights over and to the west and northwest of the country. That's low pressure in the North Atlantic dominating the weather. The Azores high is pushed out into the central part of the Atlantic. So that does allow the jet stream to be on a little bit of a southerly track as well, so probably not particularly mild month. Actually could be a rather cool month if that's right, and very wet. The one unknown with this is that we've got a big area of above average heights sitting here over the northern latitudes, particularly to the north of Russia and up towards Svalbard. Now, this high pressure, if it starts to move in that direction, could send the jet stream even further south, and then we may actually start going into quite a cold pattern. The CFS doesn't show that at the moment, but it's an ever-evolving situation. A few days ago, this area of red, this area of blocking high pressure within the northern latitudes, was not really featuring on these charts at all. So this is an evolving situation, and we've got to see how strong that high pressure gets, but potentially there is a little bit of cold potential if that high pressure begins to head over into Scandinavia and towards the Norwegian Sea. Temperature anomalies are looking like that. So actually, CFS is forecasting a colder than average month for Scandinavia and up into northwestern parts of Russia. The rest of Europe is forecast to have above average temperatures, especially so in this eastern, southeastern part of Europe, particularly sort of around the Balkans and going over towards the Black Sea. Very mild month is being forecast there. So the UK and for Ireland, our temperature anomaly is actually close to average. So that's what we're talking about with the 700 millibar high anomaly. Although it's Atlantic driven and low pressure is driving in from off the Atlantic, it's not a particularly warm Atlantic driven pattern. Actually, temperatures could be a little bit on the cool side. Generally, when you have warmer than average temperatures here around the Balkans and going over towards the Black Sea down to Greece, when it's warm there, it will often be quite cold in the northwest. It's one of the ways that the atmosphere balances itself out. If northwest Europe is doing one thing, southeast Europe will tend to do the opposite. So a very warm signal for the southeast of Europe could mean quite a coldish signal, maybe, although the model doesn't show it, could mean quite a coldish signal to the northwest of Europe, and that would include the UK and Ireland too. And a very wet month being forecast here by the CFS-V2. This is the precipitation forecast for November, substantially above average rainfall, not only for the UK, but through Ireland, through France, in towards the Low Countries and some southern parts of Scandinavia, including Denmark and the south of Norway and Sweden. You'll notice that much of Norway and the north of Sweden, though, is drier than average. Again, that would be indicative of high pressure sitting up here. So this is a very complicated pattern because on the surface, it's very Atlantic driven and wet, windy, and probably you would have thought in an Atlantic-driven November quite mild. But because of these blocking signals that we've got within the northern latitude, it just makes things a little bit more complicated and not as straightforward as you would expect in a typical Atlantic-driven type month. Now, this is how the Beijing Climate Centre is forecasting November. So this is the 500 millibar height anomaly from the 6th of November to the 5th of December. Very similar to what the CFS is showing, in that it's got all this low pressure out to the west-northwest. It's got the high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic. So overall, yes, it is an Atlantic-driven month, and possibly a little bit on the cool side as well, as the jet stream kind of aligns northwest to southeast, perhaps. Doesn't show as much blocking in the northern latitudes. There is a little bit of sort of cream-coloured anomalies up here. It's not particularly high pressure, and probably lower pressure around Greenland as well. So the Beijing Climate Centre is not raising the heights to the north as much as the CFS is doing. Nevertheless, it's not a particularly warm month that the model is forecasting. Overall, the temperature anomaly for the next 30 days close to, or maybe ever so slightly below average, only around 0 to around half a degree perhaps below average. But it's certainly not a very mild month that's being forecast here by either of these models. And also a wetter than average month. That's a clear signal across both models as well. They are both going for above average rainfall, as you'd expect, with low pressure dominating in the Atlantic. So we've got problems with this November forecast. I think we definitely say it's going to be another wetter than average month. We're going to have above average rainfall, rounding off what is going to be a very unsettled autumn. It could well turn out to be the wettest autumn since 2000, so the wettest autumn for 19 years, if this is right and we have another wet November. So above average rainfall for November, I think that's clearly coming through. What is more difficult though is the temperature and the overall pattern. So low pressure going to continue to be driving in from off the Atlantic, but it doesn't look like this is lining up a big Azores high to build into Spain and France and drag up the air from the tropics. If anything, it looks like the Azores high is displaced a bit further away from us in the central Atlantic. It looks like we probably line up the jet stream northwest to southeast, which allows cooler air to come in from the north, which means overall I would suspect temperatures could come out a little bit below average for this November. And if that's right, following on from October, it's not impossible this autumn could actually be slightly colder than average, which is very, very unusual. We haven't had a very cold autumn since 1993. We've only had a couple of cooler than average autumns since then. So thinking of perhaps 2008 and 2012. But I think we do have a chance here of another below average month. Not significantly so, but certainly around half a degree or so below average for November. That's what I would anticipate with this kind of pattern. And a little bit of wintry potential too. That's particularly so for northern areas, so don't be all that surprised if there's some early snowfalls through this month, particularly in the north. Very, very good pattern for the Scottish ski resorts, by the way. Looks like they'll be off to a flying start with this for this ski season. And generally just a little bit colder and more unsettled than we've had in November for quite a while, perhaps. The big unknown is the northern blocking signal that we saw there on the CFS V2, and it is within some shorter range model output at the moment. We'll talk about that in today's Furby update, looking at the weather next week to 10 days. If that northern blocking was to start to become a very significant feature and find its way sort of Scandinavia or Greenland, then we could actually find ourselves going into a very cold pattern, especially later in the month. I think that's a relatively low risk at the moment. I would rate it only around 10 to 20% chance, but I think we need to keep a close eye on it because particularly perhaps in the final week to 10 days month, we could go into a very cold pattern and that might deliver more widespread snowfall by the final sort of week or so of the month. I think it's a low risk. I think the Atlantic is just a little bit too buoyant and a little bit too intense to allow that northern blocking to really sort of lock us into a cold pattern such as we had in the end of November 2010, for example. So I think the Atlantic will fend it off generally and will stay in a cool, potentially at times a little bit cold pattern, and also very unsettled. But if the Atlantic was just to ease off the gas a little bit in the final week, 10 days or so of the month, then there would be more widespread wintry potential with that. But at the moment, I think we say wintry potential is mainly for the north, although as one of these slider lows comes across the country, we could see a little bit of wintriness down in the south, perhaps, this November. Certainly wouldn't rule it out. But wintry potential primarily in the north, an unsettled month, above average rainfall, and temperature potentially a little bit below average. With this November. It's a very difficult and finely balanced forecast, though. So, fraught with error, fraught with danger. And it could go wrong. It could go wrong on the milder side, because this is an Atlantic-driven pattern. So, if the heights were suddenly to start to rise around the Azores to Spain, we would drag up much warmer air from the middle of the Atlantic, and that would take us into a much milder pattern. Conversely, though, if that high latitude blocking really starts locking in, then we could come out colder than this forecast suggests and more wintry. It's very, very finely balanced. So it is fraught with danger and it could go wrong on either the mild or the cold side. Finally, just have a quick sneak peek at December. This is what CFS V2 is showing for December. Now, this is a mild Atlantic-driven pattern. This is the difference from November to December because we have the above-average heights then from the Azores to Spain to France. Still lots of low pressure in the Atlantic, but everything is further north. The jet stream and the low pressures are pushed further north by that ridge building up from the Azores, and so that does drag up much milder air, even quite in fact very mild air from the middle of the Atlantic. So that is still very unsettled, but it's also a lot milder as well. I think with November being so complicated, we'll worry about December when we get there. So in the final analysis at GalesNotice.com, November 2019 forecast is for a slightly cooler than average month. Temperature anomalies below average, not a big deviation, but a little bit below average. A wetter than average month too, bringing to a close what's been a very unsettled, wet autumn. Little bit of wintry potential, particularly for northern parts of the country, and an outside risk that at some point, probably late on in the month, we could turn a lot colder and potentially rather wintry. It's a low risk, but we do need to keep a close eye on it. Right, we'll be back in a couple of hours with the week's 10-day video update, and then tonight we've got a second Christmas update. That's all for now, though, and thanks for watching.